Well, hey there everyone, it's Kris from Rate the Record, and yes, of course, it's that time of the week again, where I take a look at 3 different songs, singles, whatever, I review them right here for you right now, and that's exactly what I should do instead of just rambling on, so let's get into it. This one might be kind of a long one today because of the 3rd track in particular, but we'll get there when we get there. So first up we have Tears for Fears. The new wave pop rock act from Bath, England is back for their first full-length album since 2004's Everybody Loves a Happy Ending. Their new album, and it also happens to be their 7th full-length release, is called The Tipping Point. The album dropped back on February 25th, and the final single for the album that came out, Break the Man, came out in late January, so why not just take a look at it anyway since the album's brand new. This song kind of ranges in what you can get from it like very quickly, like within the first minute you get an idea of everything this song can give you. It goes from this dreamy, atmospheric kind of beginning, and then eventually it starts to feel like this kind of chill lounge music type thing, straight up into a poppy dance number from there. Everything here has a very smooth layer of polish on it. The voices are really nice, but when it comes to like the acoustic guitars behind it, they're very ear-piercing, just, they're irritating. I'm not a big fan of those at all. You have these strings, which is obviously just synth. It carries the song most of the way through though, and I think it works really well for that. It's very peaceful and very calming sounding despite the energy of the music. And then you have the chorus. It's very simple, very catchy, and it has a very in-your-face kind of mix. It's kind of a shame how campy the chorus sounds in this one, because the verses bring out all these interesting chord progressions and harmonies that I actually kind of enjoyed about the song. But then there's this like breakdown portion in the bridge, which I personally find is the best part of the song. The change up of the pacing, and to a lesser note, even the style of the song, how it felt different in that part, felt very welcome despite the fact of how brief it actually was. All in all, the song is okay. This kind of felt like Tears for Fears writing a song that was inspired by Tears for Fears, if you get what I mean by that. If you like some fun, catchy synth pop, chances are you're going to like this one. So up next we have Billy Howerdel, founder and guitarist of the band A Perfect Circle, or as most people probably know that band as, Maynard James Keenan's side project. But regardless, Billy Howerdel is releasing a solo album at some point this year. He teased the world with this album with the release of its first single on March 4th, and it's called Poison Flowers. Now, if you're expecting this just to be an APC track, you're pretty much wrong for the most part. This one's very gothy, very dark, and it has tinges of like a bunch of influences that I just can't quite put my hand on, but I know that they're there. You have this really dreary guitar that kind of starts the song out, this creeping bass that follows it, these very noisy reverberated synths. It's all kind of put on top of this like trap style drum machine. I guess I wasn't expecting it, but it is what it is. And then you have this really menacing piano that kind of goes along with Billy's very airy, again, gothy style vocals. Like, it's just interesting how this is all coming together. I found this song has some really interesting sound design when you're listening to it through your headphones. It feels like everything has its own texture, which kind of makes for a very unique listening experience. The layering in the song is great. Nothing feels like it stands out too much. Nothing's too loud. And even if something does feel like that, it's usually pretty brief and it feels like it serves an appropriate purpose. I think my biggest gripe with this song that I can think of would probably be the vocal layering in the middle of the track. There was different processing at varying points, and overuse of effects on just different voices coming through, like left, right, and everything kind of felt different all the time. But thankfully, there wasn't too much of a reliance on it, so I guess I'm not going to complain about it too much. It was a little annoying though. It just didn't feel necessary. Overall though, I do like this one. It's haunting, it's unnerving, and the many uses of textures and soundscapes really kept this one fresh and interesting. And even sitting at 5.5 minutes, this one didn't feel like much of a slog, so that's definitely a good thing. Now, at the point of me recording this video, we still don't know when the album is coming out, although it could be announced pretty much any day, I'm guessing. But I am definitely curious to hear more. Okay, we're about to get into the 3rd track. I'm gonna give you a little side note for this one. This one is long, and this one is intense. The song is 15 minutes long, and it's very likely the most non-user-friendly, indigestible track I've ever covered on singles reviews. And a couple months ago when I did Def Club, if you think that was crazy, I mean, this one by far surpasses it. So just a bit of a heads up if you haven't listened to the tracks yet, this one is different. So the band Springtime is a 3-piece band out of Australia, and they just released a brand new EP back on March 2nd called Night Raver. It's only 3 tracks long, and the leading single they released was, again, this 15-minute behemoth track, The Names of the Plague. I'm gonna try to keep this as brief as possible, but it's very, very hard to compress a review down of a very long song just full to the brim of so much to hear and experience. Realistically, it's an absolute nightmare to get through, so if this video runs long, this song is the reason why. This song is a gigantic mix of experimentation, avant-garde, freeform, noise rock, jazz, and probably a slew of other microgenres I'm not even aware of. Roughly the first 3 minutes or so is this unsettling drifting into a dream that's slowly becoming a nightmare. There's a demented, heavily affected guitar that sounds like it's just slightly ahead of you, kind of having its own little anxiety attack. Then you have the drums that go from this acoustic, improvised type of drum rollout to this very noisy, jazzy, abrasive, slow march. The introduction of this piano sounds really beautiful, but it also doesn't really sound like it holds any signs of peace. That moves us forward through this first 3 minutes of the track very well, and really this whole entire section just feels like it would probably be more at home in a Silent Hill soundtrack. A note that I'll make right now, so I don't keep repeating it through the rest of this track, is the sound design in this song. Now, whether or not it was intentional, this song makes really good use of like a 3D type sound space. Just closing my eyes and listening to this song with headphones on really created this feeling of actual distance between sounds, and it really enhanced the listening experience. Though I will admit, when I was listening to this track with my eyes closed, because of how the music sounds, it always felt like something was approaching me in my room when I wasn't looking. So section 2 now, which I will call the verse because it does come back a little later on down the track as well, this doesn't mess around. These angry and dissonant hints of instrumentals finally lead into this like noisy jazz portion, which finally introduces the vocals, again, like 3.5 minutes in. The singer sounds exhausted and beaten down. It's just completely worn out, but the best part is it kind of suits the atmosphere of the track already. And if you want to call it a hook, I do love the lyrical line that ends each section of lyrics. It's just super intense, like, all these are the names of the plague. A lot of emotion, just rawness in the voice. I love that. As drenched in insanity as this section feels, I really like what it's giving me. This whole verse portion kind of makes me feel like what King Crimson would sound like if they had to trudge through hell. Alright, let's go on to section 3 now. We're not done this track, it's way too long. Everything gets pulled back for a brief time, but there's still no real point of rest here. The free wandering guitar in the background is honestly terrifying, and the tension being built with everything happening at this particular section is stomach churning. It's worse knowing you never know where the song's going to go from one point to another. Did I use the term nightmare already? Because this section is exactly that. I really like it though, don't get me wrong, especially again with that sound design. It just feels refreshing and new in a very weird, chaotic way. It keeps you on your toes, not knowing what's bound to explode through the speakers. And yes, around 11:25, the verse explodes back through the speakers very aggressively, if not more so than the previous time it showed up. Overall, this song is a mind-pounding experience, and it makes sure that you know that. I listened to this song 4 times over the course of 2 days, so that's 1 hour for one song over the course of 2 days. And I think I love it. It's challenging, it's different, it's so far removed from the norm of things you would usually listen to on a day-to-day basis, and it demands your attention. Could I listen to it every day? Absolutely not. Will I listen to it again on a slightly kind of almost frequent basis? Likely, yes. If you're looking for something a little more outside the norm and you're down for something super experimental, then I would suggest checking this one out. This isn't for everyone, so just approach with caution, I guess. Alright, my longest review yet, and that is the end of the video. I'm sorry, that last song was just, it's different. Oh my god, it's so good. Make sure you tell me down below what you think of these tracks, especially if you listen to the third one. I'm always curious to know your opinion on the songs that I review. And don't forget to go listen to Savannah's 3 songs as well. She has her video up. You can see what she's reviewed. Maybe they're not as crazy as mine, but hey, they're probably still fantastic. And don't forget, every Monday, the actual Rate the Record podcast. A new episode comes out every Monday. And this past Monday, we took a look at U2 because their most popular album of all time, The Joshua Tree, turned 35 years old on March 9th. So what better time to talk about it? We now have a Ko-fi page if you want to support us financially. Completely optional, content still free. Just if you felt like doing that, you can do that. You can donate and help out the channel, build it bigger than ever. The link is down in the description. You will find that. And other than that, I need to go lay down now. This was a long one to get through. So thank you very much for watching, and until next week, take care, friends.